Hey everyone. Hey Shikha, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Excited for the second last episode in our series on the natural archetypes. So we are somatic astrology, and this in this episode we're going to be talking about Leo and Aquarius. Uh, Very important archetypes. And I wanted to start with just quickly bringing attention to this artwork, which has been done by Shikha. All the artwork in this series has been done by Shikha herself, and this one especially is just, I think, like very great exemplification of the Leo archetype, right? Like even the eyes of the tiger, of this lion, the hair, the mane, the way that they're looking at a certain way, it's kind of like, hey, it's amazing. I think this is a very balanced understanding of Leo, of having attention because of how unique they are, and just having that like understanding and realization. It's also like a lion which is like, I think we'll get into this later, but it's like self-centered. Is like, just knows how good they are and like how beautiful they are, and also this the sun in the background, I believe, like, So, anyways, this is beautiful. Uh, do you want to tell us a little bit about this artwork and how was it for you?
Yeah, when I started making the artwork for the entire series, I knew that when it came to Leo, I had to do my best work because this is the archetype of creativity itself. And, you know, Leo is so royal, so grand, like that really had to come out in the archetype. But even before I came to astrology, lions have always been a personal favorite subject of mine to draw. I've been drawing lions over and over again for a couple of years now. So I'm really familiar with like the anatomy, and yeah, and I love dramatic lighting, which I think the main is catching. So yeah, this is like my personal favorite as well. Though I really enjoyed making Aquarius too because rendering the water was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, thank you for explaining that. Can you tell us a little bit about what the artwork here, what this symbol or what this symbolizes?
Yeah, for Aquarius is like the most unique sign. Like Leo is very special, but Aquarius is just unconventional. And I think of all the artwork I have so far, this is like very different from the others because there's distortion happening of the actual artwork. That's because of the water, which I don't have in any of the others. Um, there are no animals or humans here. I think that only happens with Libra, but otherwise you have like animals or humans representing in symbolism. um, so this is just like, even though it's an air sign, it is represented by water again, so unconventional, never sticking to the rules. That is Aquarius. It is an air sign, but it's represented by water flowing out of a pot or a jar because it's the flow of higher consciousness, of idea, high intellect. And that's why it's represented by this overflowing um, jar of water.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That is, yeah, I don't have anything to say. I appreciate this. I love this artwork, and I think it's a good time to start to skip to the zodiac wheel, and just to tell people that we started our journey from the first house, and we're studying it in polarities. We're studying it in, the complementary balance from the first house to seventh house, second and eighth, third and ninth, fourth and 10th, and now we're at fifth and 11th. So we're at Leo and Aquarius. So again, this is the center of the second quadrant, which will be fixed fixed sign, because then when the center of every quadrant is fixed, the beginning is, uh, I mean,
Cardinal.
cardinal, because that's starting new energy, right? We're entering into a new, and then finally we have mutable, which is there's going to be another change before something new starts. So again, in this second house, or in the second quadrant, we're finding our, stability in this kind of way. Fixed sign. It's a yang sign, uh, Leo, and again, both of these are going to be yang. So let's let's start talking about one of our favorites, the Leo archetype. Take it away, Shikha.
Yeah, I know we say this pretty much every episode, but again, this axis is very personal to both of us. You're a Leo moon, and your Jupiter is in Aquarius. I don't know if you remember, but it is. And they're also in polar opposite houses, 10th house and 4th house for you. For me, it's also very personal because this is my nodal axis. My south node is in Leo, and my north node is in Aquarius, and my moon is in the fifth house. So again, I think there's from the description we have here, I think both of us relate to a lot of the points here, especially starting with like creative self actualization. Leo represents the soul's need to express itself and to create things. And that can look like art, fine art, performing arts, culinary arts, anything to create, including children, which is why Leo as a sign also is known to be very fond of children. And that's something we see with lions. They're the only kind of big cats, or any cat for that matter, that are very social. Otherwise, cats are like very, they're lonely types. But Leos love children. That is literally creating something. So that's creative self actualization. And I also want to take a minute here to say that I just got back from watching Michael, the movie. I'm late, I know, but I've been moving around. Um, and as I was watching that movie, and I'm like, these are all my talking points for the episode later today, because literally the script describes Leo. So when we hear Michael say things like, I just want to shine my light, like God has given me this gift and I need to shine my light. That is Leo. Leos inherently have this sense of destiny, that a special sense of destiny, a special sense of purpose. And that is why the sun sign is considered so important for everyone. People confuse it as the identity, though it's not really your identity. It's not your core identity. It's your life's purpose. Something, of course, that you relate to a lot. And it's part of your ego. So, of course, it is part of your identity as well, along with the moon and other conscious planets, the inner planets. But where a sun is, as by sign and house, that is what gives us purpose and a special sense of destiny, that we're here to achieve something. So people with strong Leo placements feel they're very special because, yes, you are. Leos are very special and they have main character energy. That is Leo. It's just like, the entire zodiac, Leo's gonna get attention first. And they love that. Leos love, to be honest, I think Leos are one of the least problematic signs. Like their shadows aren't so annoying. I mean, they need a lot of attention, so that can be a little too much for the other person to give constant validation. But that's not really harmful, like their shadows aren't harmful, but we'll come to that later. What I'm trying to say is that Leos just want to love and be loved. It's a warmest sign. It's a very loving sign. It loves expressing itself. It loves creating things. It loves children. It loves romance. Life is a grand romance for Leo. Wherever you have like Leo placements, that you'll feel like, oh my life is a grand in that part of that area of life is really grand. And director of their own play, again, that really came to me while I was watching the movie, because there's something else again, how Michael's taking control of his life and how he's going to express himself, like the suppression and the abuse that he was being subjected to by his father, that was stifling his creativity. He was like being forced to just perform with his brothers and not his own unique voice, that was being suppressed. So Leo is here to become the director of their own play. And while I was making this slide, I was also thinking about you at improv. Now that you started acting, I think this might resonate with you too, like how do you want to become the director of your own play, of your own life? So that's Leo. And then another part of the movie that really resonated with me was when Michael's in the pool with his brothers, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Because he was like humming. And he says, "Oh no, I am just like, I'm trying to receive songs from God," like something along those lines. Because if he doesn't, God will give them to Prince. So that was funny, but that is Leo's highest expression, because Leos are naturally talented. They will have some form of like creative talent for sure. What can happen is that can lead to pride, where Leos think that they are the source of creativity instead of understanding they're a channel for God, universe, or the source. That the source is creative and we are a channel. So when I'm making this art, or you're dancing, or you're performing, we become channels for this universe's inherent creativity that's flowing through us. That is the humble Leo. So that was just, briefly, but I want to talk a lot about that movie. If you haven't watched it yet, for the listeners, please do. You will really understand what Leo is about.
No, thank you so much for that. I mean, this is clearly a very personal topic for me. My moon and Leo, but also my last partner, my ex-partner, is Leo sun, sun and Leo, and I will like share like an artist, true artist at heart. Like, but more than an artist, it was like that every second of their life is devoted to creation, even in through like uh, even through like deep pain and illness. The one thing which continued was creation. Like I remember this person when they were unable to do anything, but every little act of self care was an act of art and creation. And, I wonder, so many times I remember being so deeply attracted, so deeply drawn to this person. And I kind of like realized the many reasons why. One of them was that my heart, my emotional body was reflected. I could see that being reflected in this person's purpose, life purpose, which is to constantly create. And I remember in the beginning, again, a singer, dancer, musician, uh, poet, just so many things like artist. This specific thing which you mentioned was that she said this again and again was that I feel like that I'm channeling something when when they were dancing, is that they felt like that they were channeling something divine through that. And this goes down to like this, their love with like Sufi mystics and so on and so forth. And but that stuck with me was that when this person was whirling, when this person, even through singing whatever, they had become a channel, which is the highest expression of Leo, as you mentioned, was to actually realize that. And even in Ari Moshe's, chapter which I read, really, which I can continue to credit here, and I will also put it in the description. I keep forgetting that, but Ari Moshe is an evolutionary astrologer, and his one of his books is about the introduction to evolutionary astrology, which I would recommend to everyone. I'm going through it very slowly at my pace as this, and it mentions that one of the purpose of Leo is to understand that they are a unique expression of creation itself, which is kind of what you were saying, was that rather than being the source of creation, which I guess they are also, but they are itself a unique expression of creation. And that understanding, I believe, is for me is also has been deeply, because that is something which my heart, my emotional body has constantly needed to be reminded of, that I'm a unique expression of creation itself. I don't have to perform only to get love, to get adoration, which I want and desire. That I can get it for just being and understanding that I'm a unique expression. And I think, you know, that is something which has resonated. And I'll say one more thing here, since you brought up playback, because for me, as a Leo moon, I just feel like this dramatic emotions, like, and I can try and stay, under, masculinity and like, patriarchal masculinity. The only expression which was allowed for me was anger, a very dramatic expression. To be honest, like this happened on TikTok also. I'm all my videos that went viral in which I was really angry. Like and then that created a feedback loop, because that is the only anger that I was allowed to express, only emotion I'm allowed to express, only emotion I get validation for. So it becomes like a vicious cycle, right? But there is this large palette that any Leo will have. And I think Leo brings that diverse palette of uh, I believe like an the emotional wheel in that sense. And I know that that needs not just a simple, exploration or like a muted expression. It needs a dramatic expression. And playback theater, and we can get into that later, is essentially theater, drama in that sense, where you play back people's stories. So, I'll ask Shikha, hey Shikha, your last heartbreak, how did it feel? And you'll mention a couple of things. I will act that out. But but one of the goals here is to go big, and that is what my teachers, my mentors, or gurus in this. And I'll give a shout out to Asali, has taught me, is to be like, no, hey, take up space, go big. And I'm realizing how healing that is for me, is because that is actually my desire inside, is to go big, like, is to have like this dramatic expression of sadness, this dramatic expression of happiness on stage, so that in real life it's not that dramatic, maybe, right? And even if it is, there is, it's not harmful, or it's not it's also not just only anger, which is what it's been, which is what has, you know, uh, has been was one of my biggest issues in my life, whether it was family relationships or that, or that kind of stuff. So, anyways, I wanted to say, like, Leo personally for me is very important, because this person was really, really close to me, impacted me in so many different ways, and one of them was the fact that I think they reflected my emotional state, which is like, hey, what I'm seeing here, I could see that here. Like, oh, wow, this dance, this music, this grandiosity, this being the center, like, it was amazing when I was like, oh, okay, I feel that here. You know what I mean? Okay, I'll stop now, but keep going. Anything else?
I also have a very special Leo person in my life. My niece is a Leo moon, and she is so dramatic. Everything is just over the top with her. Her reactions, range of emotions, also extremely creative. She's also an artist like me, but a lot more bolder. Like takes lot more risks with her art. Like Leo leads from the heart. Like everything when it comes to Leo just comes down to the heart, which is why the fifth house is also known as the house of like dating and romance. It's not commitment energy so much. Not that Leos don't commit. It's not like that, because for a fire sign, it's actually a monogamous sign. Fire signs and air signs are more open to non-monogamy. But Leo is not that way, because Leo wants to flirt with others, but they do
Hmm.
not want their partners giving attention to anyone else.
Yep,
That
yep.
they cannot handle.
I have learned that from personal experience myself. Trust me.
My niece is the same way. She cannot handle it if I give attention to any other kid. All my attention needs to be on her. For me, like because I do have Leo signatures, but it's my south node, so I like naturally have been moving away from like Leo shadows and adopting more Aquarius energy. So I'm somewhere in the middle. And recently, Uranus and Taurus squared both my nodes, so it's pushing me closer to Aquarius. The more objectivity, the dramatic behaviors have come down. Um, but my moon in the fifth house, the way for it manifests for me is, of course, art. It's like I've been drawing since I don't know what, like 5 years old. I've never stopped. Um, and that's the only thing, like the thing that matters to me the most in the world is like my art. Everything else can go away, but if this goes away, I don't know what to do. Which is why actually when I read your partner's writings, that really resonated with me, because I know how important it is. Like how much, like to be able to create is like really important, and to have that, to struggle with that is just heartbreaking. But my niece as well, like mixed media art, she just like, continues to create like all the time, like compulsively just creating, because she doesn't have to like really adopt so much Aquarius energy. And for me, moon in the fifth house, apart from like creativity, I think the way it manifests is that I have a love for children, just all children. And if I see like children in pain, that really breaks my heart. Like that also happened when I watched the movie today, or when I just hear like stories about child abuse in any form, or just when I look at kids, I just feel so happy. So that is there definitely for me. It comes out that creativity in that form. So yeah, this Leo is like a very loving sign, so warm.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think this warmth, and the other thing with Leo comes is like heart centeredness. Like, I think like more heart chakra, and like and I haven't really done research into it, but like red color heart chakra, and like love, like, which I remember when, feeling love for me was not just in romantic relationship, and I'm sure this is for so many people. It just outpours into like every aspect of your life. In fact, my ex partner had called me a bouncing ball of love once. Was like, it was literally that I would be just going, and it was like me kind of like high on just love in general. And I think it was when I was more embodied, and like uh, had the some of my transit had yet to start, but like I was more embodied, but I genuinely was like that everywhere where I was. It was just meeting people with love, and it was. I think that exemplifies like a lot of Leo energy, where it is like really centering that, and I think it will ultimately also come from self love, right? Like for Leos, at least that'll be extremely important, right? 'Cause that's important for everyone, but really because that need for attention, that need for realizing that they're special, and this is a theme probably which happens with many artists, and I'm sure I know a lot of Leos who are all like dancers right now. Like it's in fact literally one of my like communities which does house music and house teaching and dance. They have a group called Leos Never Die. They're all Leos. It's crazy. They all love dancing in the center of the club, taking up space, creating space also. They're all musicians and dancers. Like literally everyone's a Leo. It's crazy. It's like 4 or 5 of them. Some of the most beautiful people that I've seen are like all Leos, right? And I think it's so important for Leos in that sense because being artists like this right now and always has been, especially right now under NCH capitalism, you're not going to get attention for who you are, which is like your heart just wants to create and is an artist at heart, right? It's kind of like the starving artist syndrome, as like Ari Moshe says that because your parents might not have been supportive, right? And that can create such, and I know when this happened, I know a few artists, even my ex-partner, same thing. Parents just had no like real value of this beautiful creation, expression of the creation. They have no value for that. And somewhere, I know that Leo or most artists, but like let's say the artist, right, needs to know, needs to get validated, needs to know from one way, shape, or form that it is that they are special, that they matter. And if that wound is created in childhood, it can linger on for a long time in your life. And then you might start like doing things to get that love when a lot of it will need to come from within. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but that's something that I was receiving when I was reading that book. Do you have any thoughts of that?
Yeah, I mean, I have personally also been on the receiving end of um, like art not being prioritized. I would so apart from fine arts, visual arts, another way my creativity that I express myself is through writing. I used to write a lot. Don't write so much now, but I remember when I was like 14, I wrote like 100,000 word novel in 6 months. Um, so I used to write a lot, and I wanted to pursue English literature. That wasn't allowed. That what you mentioned, how parents deprioritize, especially in India, right? No, you got to do something that is productive, and because of internalized capitalism. And I had to give up art and writing for some time. But it came back to me when Pluto entered my fifth house and conjuncted my moon because my moon is in the fifth house. And art came back to me, and I haven't stopped like drawing since. I don't write so much anymore, but I know like how it feels to not be able to do what you're actually meant to do, whether it's your sun or your moon or your Venus. Wherever you have Leo, that's where you need to creatively express yourself, and to have that suppressed is very heartbreaking. And Leos get heartbroken so easily, so I understand the pain you're talking about.
No, absolutely, yeah. And but anyways, I love this, natural expression of, the generative fire. It's kind of like what comes to me is like a fire in the center of your chest, like fire, which is like red and it's burning with love. And it's like, hey, it's keeping, it keeps you, is generating, constantly helping you create. Uh, okay, cool. You want to bounce over to Aquarius? All right, excellent. And then moving on to very, very special, absolutely very special. If Leo is special, then Aquarius is also very special. Uh, but yeah, so again, when I think about Aquarius, absolutely like Uranus and 11th house, generally the themes are like you mentioned, higher consciousness, awakening, uh, disruption. But I think the one word which keeps coming up is like freedom. It's like uniqueness. Uh, liberation from, like non-conformity, right? Like, which is, I think, one of the evolutionary like growths of Aquarius is generally, or Uranus, is to break away, to realize that they are in a conformity. And the multiple Aquariuses that I have met, recently, had similar stories also, where, grew up in an environment where they were like, they knew they were different, but they had to conform and never fit right, and ultimately broke off, moved to a different town, different city, and then just let them be them, just became weird. Like, what people would call weird, but it's like a beautiful, unique expression of themselves. And I think that's like the journey. That's what comes to my mind, which is that, and even Stephen Forrest in his book, when, wrote about Aquarius in that sense, was that the one of the purpose of Aquarius is to actually realize their uniqueness and do not try and conform. Because because I also know Aquariuses who, depending on the evolutionary stage that they're in, have, you know not been able to like find their uniqueness, have gone to to conformity, to what society expects out of them, what patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy have expected out of you. Here, I will become that. And for me, that is, personally, that's heartbreaking, because whenever I see a higher natural expression of Aquarius, when there's somebody who's a double Aquarius that I met, I always say this, like, I can spot an Aquarius from like a few miles. Like, I will be able to like see it. I was like, okay, there's an Aquarius. This is an Aquarius who's like dressed in a sense, like clothes, hair, color, like everything is just that. And maybe that's just like the bias that I have, that I've seen people, but I get that sense, like they have the energy to break yourself from conformity and to find your uniqueness. So that comes from me, but I'll let you take over from here about Aquarius.
Absolutely. Aquarius Uranus. This is the archetype of liberation. Liberation from oppressive constructs, though in shadow form, they rebel without a cause, like just for the sake of rebellion, but we'll talk about that later. One of my closest friends is also double Aquarius, and she was raised in a very strict Catholic home and then grew up to be like a metal singer, very goth, um, communist, like radical communist, Maoist. So Aquarius will rebel, and that's lovely about them. But I also have another very close friend who's an Aquarius sun who's very conformist. Just, was a good student, chose the productive fields, had a, productive corporate career, got married, beautiful home, kids, cars, like stuff like that, very conformist. So because they're just in different stages of evolution, like you said. But I was thinking about how when we cover these polarities, there is something at the core that unites the polarities always. Like Taurus and Scorpio, they're actually very relational and sexual. So that's what unites them. And Aquarius and Leo, what actually unites them is being special, is being unique, but they just express it differently. Both of them own it, typically, if in their natural expression. Both of them own being special, but for Leo, it's about putting on a show. But for Aquarius, it's about everyone is unique. That's unity in diversity. Everyone is unique. There's diversity, and everyone is a node in the network. So Aquarius doesn't, sorry, assign special. Sorry, just a sec. Aquarius doesn't assign special status to anyone, and that's where they're different from Leo, and how Leo and Aquarius balance each other. So it is higher consciousness for sure. Like, it represents very high intellect. You'll find Aquarius folks with strong placements. They're actually very intelligent. And they have these mental downloads, there's sudden awakenings, which is why when we have Uranus transits, life, suddenly changes. We have these sudden insights. Oops. Okay. And they're inherently very individualistic in the sense that they're unique, not selfish, but they have a very clear understanding of like, I'm an individual, you're an individual. There's no enmeshment. Leo is the warmest sign. This is the coldest sign. That's how they're also opposite. But cold in the sense that they're extremely objective. There is an objective perception of archetypes. And by that, what I mean is when they have difficult experiences, any experiences, but especially difficult experiences, they don't tend to think, they don't take it personally, like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? This shouldn't be happening to me. That's a Leo 9 expression because Leo takes everything personally. Aquarius can step back from a problem, look at the bigger picture, and realize, okay, this is something that everyone goes through. It's not a big deal. I mean, even if it hurts, it's fine. It's just something everyone has to go through, everyone experiences. It's because archetypes are universal. They can put some intellectual distance between, themselves and their experience. That's the higher consciousness, because when you think about Buddhism or the Vedanta, what they talk about is like to realize you're a soul that's observing your ego self. Your ego is experiencing all the pain, um, the joy, everything that, these emotions that is the ego self is experiencing. Your soul is the one who observing you from that's experiencing all of this. And that's how like has that higher consciousness. It can step back. It's very objective. And it's also um like it's a very isolated archetype. Like Aquarius loves being alone, but they're also great friends. And they value friendship. Like Leo values romance, Aquarius values friendship. And Aquarius is also, that's why it is the most non-monogamous
I
archetype.
was literally going to say that. I was coming towards that. I was like 100% uh, Aquarius, solo poly, like that is Aquarius vibes to be like, hey, I want to have, and are actually have I believe personally from my little experience, have a very natural inclination towards that. And I'm actually good at that because, like you said, like they believe in like this beautiful word, cosmic friendship. Hey, we're connected, like, and also automatically have that objectivity to not take things personally. To be like, okay, sure, you know what, this didn't work out. Okay, we're gonna do this, and have their own space, but still have a network. Which is why I like personally love Aquarius because that's honestly part of me wants that, but I know it's so hard for me also. It's like, it's just the not taking things personally has literally been the motto of my life to be like, okay, don't take things personally. And this higher consciousness definitely helps in that. A more
Yeah.
mono sign, we have a more non-mono sign. With that personally, I mean, I feel I agree with that completely.
Yeah, but like my friend who's double Aquarius is very monogamous. Um, Maybe it's a conformity, non-conformity thing again. But yeah, just goes to show that we really cannot tell so much about a person just from their placements. You really have to understand their lived experience to correlate with their charts,
And also, like,
because that.
this is like so much. There's so much nuance here. There's transits. There's none of these things are fixed, right? Like monogamy, non-monogamy are not characteristics. They're choices. They're ways of relating with people. People, like things change. And so, anyways, please let's both you and I are really trying hard not to be deterministic about these things. But it's good to say because clearly I also know Aquarius, double Aquarius, in fact, is a different stage of evolution. Uh, Completely conformist, right? Very monogamous also. And I don't think this is not less than or bad than. It's its own unique journey that somebody's going through. But just given the characteristics, I, could be more inclined towards non-monogamy. I think that's what I wanted to say. Just to be clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just archetype wise, this is the most non-monogamous sign because um, this is I think of relational anarchy when I think of Aquarius, where everyone is equal. Like I think pure Aquarius expression would be non-hierarchical, polyamory, very kitchen table, just allowing people to be no one's more important than the other, which is great in terms of, like you said, higher consciousness, right? It's very evolved. But reality is not always that way, right? Because subjectivity also matters, feelings matter, the heart matters, Leo matters. So that's also there. Like Leo just wants to flirt with everyone, but they want their partner just by themselves. They don't want to share that. So that doesn't make Leo less evolved or, like
Exactly. Yeah.
toxic. That, yeah. That's not what it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it is definitely liberation from social constructs, especially oppressive constructs. Though sometimes what happens is, like, I've also read this from Jeff Green, um, like Aquarius folks will start rebelling, and as they grow older, they actually stop, and they um, what happens is that they start this new thing, and then they become conformist within that. So it's like being punk, and then you become so dogmatically punk that you're actually conforming. So that it's like you have to be aware of whether your rebellion is serving a cause or whether you're rebelling out of insecurities. So that is the difference. Like,
It's a great point, and that's absolutely. And we'll. I'm just moving towards the shadow expression because that is something that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's part of what I have observed in some cases has been specifically somebody. I guess if they see this episode, they'll know what I'm talking about. Very rebellious as a young child, very rebellious, dude. Like what the hell? And then somewhere along the line, their journey was about rebellion, and I think rebellion from culture, from cultural standards and then got adopted into a certain different kind of culture, but very conformist in that culture. Like in that culture, this is not conform. Like that's pure conformity, right? But to the point that exactly what you mentioned, like uh, it got conformist in that culture, but also just conformist because it wasn't really about the culture that you're rebelling. It is about finding your uniqueness, right? And you can find your uniqueness in relation to a set of norms, or just find your uniqueness within yourself, not in relation to anything. When you're yourself, you won't need to be in a box per se, right? That is very cool that you just mentioned. I think it just hit me about how that can happen. And I think that's a part of shadow expression of Aquarius can sometimes be destructive rebellion, and not to say destructive rebellion, not to say shadow is bad. Number one, to say that destructive rebellion might be necessary in times, um, but everything needs to be in balance, right? And this dogmatic unconventionality that you mentioned, which makes sense to be like, no, I'm going to do this because I'm going to do this, and that's it. Right? You stop, the evolution stops per se in that kind of sense. So, anyways, I've also agree with this extreme alienation can happen because truly an Aquarius energy at that higher consciousness, understanding this objectivity will not feel um, part of society. Might not feel like anyone gets them, right? And taken to that extreme, it can just be easy for someone to just be cut off from society, where the Leo balance would have taught them, hey, you're actually supposed to be part of society and be around people and stuff like that. So yeah, just curious about your thoughts.
yeah, so when I think of Aquarius in terms of like political ideology, abolition comes to mind. It is tearing down oppressive structures. That's what Aquarius Uranus, what it does is like they tear down structures, which is very important. But I remember this quote from Ruth Gilmore Wilson, abolitionist. Like when I was studying abolition theory a few years ago, what really stuck with me is that abolition is not just about tearing structures down, it's also about building life affirming ones. And that's where Aquarius, in the pursuit of liberation, can move into shadow, where it just becomes anarchy, not even anarchism, right? It's anarchy. You'd want to tear things down because things are oppressive, they're frustrating. We want to like bring it all down, right? We want to like set fire to the plantation. But that requires planning, and that requires building alternative structures. We want to abolish the police. But if you were to do that suddenly overnight, things will actually get worse because we don't have anything else to take space of that vacuum that will be created. So building life affirming institutions is like the first step. And then you can tear down structures. That is evolved Aquarius. And this is a Saturn Aquarius tension because Saturn Uranus. Saturn represents tradition, and Uranus represents innovation, liberation. But there is a need for balance between both. If you were to give up all traditions, which we were forced to under capitalism, and look where we are because of that. Like tradition is also important, liberation is also important. But before tearing down structures, we have to build life affirming ones. So that's the shadow of like destructive rebellion and extreme alienation for sure. My double Aquarius friend, uh, she loves humanity, very communist, but does not want anyone breathing next to her. Literally just said that to me yesterday. Humanity is great, just don't breathe next to me. Yeah, they really need their alone time. This is the most avoidant, emotionally avoidant sign. And that's why they can become like coldly detached. Like in its natural expression, it is the healthy non-attachment, the Buddhist non-attachment, where you care about others, but you're not attached to the outcome so much that your security depends on it. So they don't cling to people. But in its shadow, they can become very avoidant, like very impersonal and cold. It's the coldest sign, as opposed to Leo, which just wants to love and be loved. Aquarius is fine if not being loved. That's okay. But like that Leo cannot survive without love.
Well, thank you
So
for
yeah.
mentioning that. Specifically, like even when it's related to like anarchism, or like you mentioned, like anarchism isn't just about breaking things. It's actually about anarchism at its core. It has mutual aid as one of the things, which is actually building structures, uh, and then also breaking down like oppressive structures. Uh, but one of the analogies as a physician that I constantly give is that, of course, we want to break down the medical industrial complex, right? But the fact also remains that there is millions of people right now dependent on the medical industrial complex, disabled people, people with complex chronic illness with like heart failures and stuff like that, right? So as much as I hate the medical industrial complex and want to burn it down, what would that look like for somebody who is dependent on Lasix every day, needs the doctors and nurses, needs this system right now in this in some form of that same iteration, needs that building, needs this, what would that look like, right? Uh, and I would look like to start creating an alternative way so that the transition can happen. Um, I guess moving towards the Leo shadow expression, which, it's interesting. Now that I'm like reading it, I'm like, is this really that bad? Like, is this ego inflation that bad? Is it getting dependent on external validation? Sure, it's bad. It's not really good for you. Please don't do that. Trust me, I've been stuck in that. And is that really that bad? Like compared to like, subjective and dramatic, uh, I think personally, as a Leo moon, I see the shadow expression. I've definitely seen the shadow expression as posting something on TikTok and then just constantly waiting to see how many likes and comments I got. Uh, I mean, without a doubt, first many years ago when I got on TikTok, I was actually just speaking the truth. I was really upset and angry. And somewhere, shape, and form, I had never received that kind of attention, and it like fucked with my head. I know at a point it became extremely important to me. and and again, this was going on with a lot of other like things which are happening in my life. Everything was kind of falling apart. uh, so I definitely sense that issue, because that can keep the true power of Leo, I feel like, suppressed, which is to create as a channel, and to see everyone as unique, right, rather than becoming like, look, I am so great. And that, yeah, that's definitely shadow expression, which honestly can have negative impacts on people around you. Personally, I've seen that. I've experienced that myself. I was curious about what you meant by the pyramid effect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think it's that bad to be on the receiving end of Leo shadows. I mean, at most, what they'll throw a tantrum, and you have to just tell them you love them and they're special, and they'll calm down. Like I mean, it's a little draining to have to do it all the time. I can't do that all the time for someone. But it's like it's harmless to be honest. But I will tell you this: for the Leonine person, Leo shadows, when you confront them, that is really hard. It's very hard on the person themselves. I don't think it's that hard for others. I mean, especially others, if they're like nurturing, then Leos will be very happy with them. Um, because, like, my South Node is in Leo. So that's my comfort zone. Like that worldview I had about this is where my life is grand. This is where I have a special sense of destiny. This is where I must have a grand romance or whatever. Like those worldviews, that your South Node is your comfort zone. You come into this life and you spend half your life believing this is how the world works. And then I found out, no, I gotta be objective. and non-attached. And that was just so crushing, like my heart broke. Like,
Wow. That is, thank you for saying that because, oof, definitely, I know that a Leo, it's hard on a Leo. I've seen it personally. That thing was when a Leo's heart breaks, it can be really painful. Personally, also my heartbrokenness is literally like I can't even tell like how many like I cried like I've been crying for like a more than a year. Like I just couldn't like it's just such even right now the heartbreak is like so like it feels and I know that even I know that even with my ex like I just remember like seeing oh my god the heart was broken. It was two Leos who really just needed to be told hey you're I mean I definitely needed that. It was fucking heartbreaking for me that I don't know maybe I needed a lot of it or whatever and I couldn't even I guess I don't know. Anyways, the point was like that heartbreak. Yeah, that's true. It can be a lot. It can be a lot.
it's very hard for the leonine person because they're very subjective. They take everything very personally. So I didn't realize I used to do this. I didn't realize until I found astrology and I had to sit with Leo shadows and realize I take so many things personally. And also like I've had transits, right? Like Uranus was squaring my nodes for most of last year, where a lot of my Leo shadows actually came up. Thankfully, like I didn't act any of it out, most of it out. Um, but I realized I just tend to make people's behaviors mean something about me, good or bad. Even if it's good, oh, should be, it's because of me. If it's bad, is it because of
No,
me?
no, that's me. That is me. That is literally I when the first time a friend of mine uh he said that, one of the things that just helped me is like I remember it today when he said that I am learning not to take things personally. And I wanted to fucking punch him in the face. Like I wanted to like cut like literally I was like, what kind of bullshit is this? Like that's the worst thing that I've ever heard. Like I was seething in anger for like weeks after that. And later on, like, realizing, okay, maybe it was causing me to feel like that because that was something which it was a trigger because it was a reflection to be like, hey man, this is your shadow, like because I had been taking things personally all the fucking time. And to be honest, it's taking things personally if I've explored it deeper in through shadow work and individuation and from a depth psychology perspective and astrology really help, it's it can be mild, but it can actually be deeply dysregulating from a physiological perspective to the point that it creates significant anxiety. Like it's like fear in the body because you're taking things personally when okay somebody did this and you think that it's because they don't like you, but it can also be that they want to hurt you. Like I've noticed that where I was like, whoa, where's the gap? Where is the line between me just feeling emotionally hurt versus me feeling emotionally like scared? Like actually like, worried about my physical state. So I've definitely like felt that impact of, and I've struggled with this and I'm doing way, like so much better to the point that I've leaned into the extreme cold attachment part sometimes of the Aquarius to heal, right? Because the pendulum, as I said, the pendulum is supposed to swing, going from this, and I have definitely gone to the other one. I'm like, nah, bro, it's okay. That wasn't about me when it was actually about me, right? But even this was actually protective for me, right? I needed that. Uh, so finding that like healthy balance of, not taking everything personally, but also realizing when things are personal, when you need to protect yourself and when you need to distance yourself, like that kind of stuff.
No, that is when someone's actively trying to like harm us or actively wanting to love us, both, right? That is when it's explicit, then you're not taking things personally. Like taking things personally is when, uh, things are not explicit and our mind fills in the blanks, like we're filling in the gaps. Like, and that was very heartbreaking for me to realize that everything is not about me and that the universe doesn't revolve around me. I had Pluto in conjunct my south node at the same time when I had Pluto conjunct moon. So when I look back, so many, like I had become really dramatic, very subjective, taking things very personally, making everything mean something about me when that's not what it is. But I realize now that you asked me about the pyramid effect, which I forgot to explain. The pyramid effect is this feeling like you are on top of everyone, you're on top of the pyramid. Everyone else is just below you, like plebeians because yes, Leo, you're royalty. Everyone else, they're just plebeians. Like you come first, your needs come first. So there is narcissism, not in the sense, not like cold, strategic, narcissistic abuse, just making things about you, making everything about you. That sort of narcissism. That is a Leo shadow. Um,
Yeah, that is absolutely okay. Cool. Very interesting, right? Like, I mean, sometimes I wish I had like actually been this curious about astrology way earlier. I would have like saved myself a lot of trouble. But here we are, still learning and doing a lot better. And proud of my Leo moon. Uh, and trying to, like, definitely I have been here. When I was there, I didn't know it. I've been in some way, shape, or form here for a while, and it feels good to kind of look at it objectively and not feel consumed by it because I know how hard it was for me at that point. All right, cool. I think let's move to the dialectic. Oh, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that transiting Pluto is in Aquarius. So, all the Leo moons, this is your time for growth.
This is the
All
time
of
for
these
growth.
shadows,
Yeah.
these shadows are going to come up
Uh,
when it's like Pluto makes it a certain opposite angle, 180 degrees to the moon or any, vulnerable Leo placement we have, like Venus in Leo, for example. That's also a very vulnerable part of us, or even Sun in Leo, right? All any Leo placements, all fixed signs basically will be forced to grow through this Aquarius objectivity, non-attachment, higher consciousness. They'll be forced to grow, but Leo moons are going to need a lot of support. So yeah, just look out for your Leo friends.
Look out for Leo friends. Y'all, Leos never die. Let's do this. And thank you for that. And yeah, one of my again, obviously my personal favorite is to like talk about the dialectics of like you're saying status quo and revolution. And yeah, subjectivity and objectivity is interesting. Um, yeah, it's interesting because sometimes I've seen it go the other way. Like uh, yeah, it's interesting. I think like different like our emotion talks about it in the opposite way. That Leo being objective and Aquarius being subjective, and Leo helping Aquarius realize that the objectivity in the material world is important and stuff like that. And so, but I mean, the point is that there's a dialectical relationship between. I think the point isn't like who is subjective and who is subjective. The point is like there's constantly an interplay between these things and finding balance between these things. Attachment, non-attachment, uh, and the individual and collective. Yeah, and especially when I see these, I see them as like the same. Like, and I see like both the archetypes for them it's the same, and they're both interplaying with each other, not like all being you separate also, but still like constantly like interacting with each other or both these things. So anyway, yeah, anything that you want to share before we close out?
Yeah, so Leo in some way actually represents status quo. Leo doesn't really want a lot of change. It's also royalty, right? So it is literally hierarchical.
Okay.
Um, and Aquarius here is like, no, you're not special. Everyone is equally special. So just like break Leo's heart that way by making them equal to others. So it is status quo. Leo likes a romance and it's personal and subjective. And this is like friendship and equality and collective. And subjectivity, objectivity, I think both are important. Just being objective all the time can make you a little cold, right? To impersonal. And how are you going to make art from that place? You got to feel deeply to be able to make art. I mean, what would we do without Leo energy or without the sun sign, right? Without a sun sign, what would we do without that? This is so central to us. The sun
Mhm.
is the center of the universe. It organizes gravity for all the other planets around it, right? Everyone does orbit around Leo. And attachment is important. Like, of course, healthy non-attachment is the goal as we mature, but what would life be without some romance, right? So you need that too. You need that warmth, you need that affection, which is what Leo is about. And yeah, we cover individual, collective. Like it is like personal relationships take precedence, and here the collective comes first. So,
No, thank you. Yeah, this was very cool, very deeply personal, and also yeah, just the fact that I do love Leos. And I never knew why until I understood, oh, actually, I have a Leo moon. And I love to see that, projected out in front of me, danced, sung out in front of me, and just like somebody actually being, the center of attention. And that helps me, like, realize, sure, I will also put myself out there in that kind of way. Yeah, no, this was really cool. And then I think we are now just one episode left with completing the archetypes, and before we move on to, other stuff like transits and stuff like that. Any closing thoughts, Shikha? This was great. Thank you so much for the artwork and for the slides.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode and talking about Leo and Aquarius. I enjoy talking about both because I have some really strong Uranus transits going on. Uranus is in Gemini, about conjuncting my Mercury already, about to conjunct our Sun. It's already started, to be honest. Like it's officially starting from 1st June, but it's a slow moving planet, so the energy is already set in. So this archetype is very important. This axis is very important for both of us and for all the mutable signs and all the fixed signs, right? So it's like 2/3 of the zodiac already. It's like this is personal to them. But yeah, like I think own your creativity, own your uniqueness. Just keep balancing between warmth and I don't want to say being cold, but like being objective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, gratitude to all the Leos and the Aquariuses. I think you all are hella special, and just keep being yourself and keep creating and keep rebelling. All right, cool. Thank you, Shikha. I have nothing else. Please feel free to reach out to Shikha for personal astrology readings. Reach out to them. The informations will be in the description. And to me, if you want to, talk about holistic healing, specifically like breathwork and somatic therapy, uh, and we do tend to work together for people who need guidance, sometimes even through complex chronic illnesses, as above, so below. And yeah, so all the best. Take care, everyone. Bye, Shikha.
Bye. See everyone in the next episode.
Next episode. Bye.